So now that you have learned the difference between various schematic types, I'd like to go over actually a Greenheck schematic that was given to me by the engineering crew at Greenheck Tempered Air Products. To analyze the circuit, I always start at the top and go down. Like I mentioned earlier, the circuits that we designed and analyzed previously in this lesson were kind of just standardized diagrams. They may not be exactly the same as what you would see in your workplace. However, similarities are there, and the symbols are very similar to what we see on this sheet in front of me. So we start at the very top. This is main power 2 unit. You can see we have L1, L2, and L3. This is a disconnect switch. Okay, very similar to what we learned before. And then the lines go to a motor starter through some overloads to a supply motor fan. Okay, so ST1, you can see that correlates to the line diagram on the line diagram down here. So anytime this ST1 is energized, these contacts up here close and tie our three-phase power to M1. So we look at that circuit, you can see that L1 is just jumpered over, L2 is jumpered over, L3, same goes for this VFDW. This is a variable frequency drive used to power this energy wheel. So L1, L2, L3 go in, T1, T2, T3 go out to a motor. And there's various signal lines that go to this drive. But the key thing is the correlation between the symbols on top here, right there, ST2 and ST2 here. So you could really look at this as the power circuit, with the high power circuit, which is what is controlled by the low power circuit. So moving forward, we talked about this. We see we have connections here to L1 and L3. Then they go to a transformer, steps it down to 24 volts AC. Then we have a standard ladder diagram. S1, if we look at our legend, is a fan switch. So read across, that fan switch does a couple things. Energizes the D1, see it over here, which is the exhaust damper, and ST2, which is the exhaust fan. And now you can see normally overloads are represented on the right. This company, Greenheck, decided to put them on the left, and it's okay, they function exactly the same way. Notice the terminal numbers here. A1 and A2 are terminal numbers for the motor starter. 95 and 96 are the terminal numbers for the overload contacts. And we can see instead of line numbering, Greenheck chose to use colors, which is sufficient. It designates each individual line, so that's good. Okay, so ST2, when this is energized by switch 1, actuates the exhaust damper, turns on the exhaust fan by closing these contacts up here, exhaust fan motor. When ST2 closes, also closes contacts here, and notice the manufacturer's terminal numbers. Then that actuates the supply damper, supply fan, and the energy wheel. Okay, so ST2 actuates the supply damper, energizes ST1, which closes these contacts on top here. Okay, you can see we have overload contacts with the manufacturer's terminal specs on it. So when ST1 is energized, these contacts here close, energize motor 1. So you can see there's a lot of similarities between these prints and what we studied earlier, the very simple prints we studied earlier. Okay, if you look at the symbols, PS1 looks very similar to a pressure switch we studied earlier in this lesson. This looks an awful lot like a temperature switch. Okay? And that's energizing R5, which is a frost control. So the economizer control modulating wheel is a solid state device which is wired to, basically you wire it to, it's going to your frequency drive or VFD on top. So I hope you saw some similarities between these prints and the prints we looked at earlier. That's the end of this lesson. Thank you. Goodbye.